I'm back to finally give you the overdue final part of my Nightmare movie series reviews. There are 2 films left to review, so I'm going to do them both here. The reason they only get one video is because neither of them are actually a part of the original series. Freddy vs Jason was a spin-off / crossover with the Friday the 13th series, and the 2010 remake is, well, a remake. So let's crack into it. I'll try not to make the video too long and not go into full detail about the film like I did with most of the other videos. So let's start up with Freddy vs Jason. This is the final film for Robert Englund to play Freddy, and it's kind of a thank you to the fans for buying tickets to the films. It is also the final Jason movie before the 2009 reboot. So what did I think about the film? I loved it. To this day I've only actually seen the first 2 Friday the 13th movies, and I liked the first one. It had all the elements that a slasher should have. But I've seen all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, so I was excited to see Freddy in one final outing. The film came to be after New Line Cinema took over the Friday the 13th films and released their first film, Jason Goes to Hell. At the end of the film, we see Freddy's glove pull Jason's mask into the ground. This began fan speculation about a Freddy and Jason crossover movie. So 10 years later, fans were pleased when Freddy vs Jason was released. The film starts off with Freddy explaining what happened to him, and for the first time we actually see how he was originally killed. Of course in the remake we see this, but it wasn't shown in any of the previous films. Freddy also explains how he needs Jason to kill the kids on Elm Street so he can gain power. In this film they go back to the old reason for Freddy having his power, which is fear, and if no one fears him then he can't kill anyone. This idea was brilliant. It was way better than having those weird sperm things from Freddy's Dead. So Freddy tricks Jason, who is in a deep sleep after being killed. Freddy pretends to be Jason's mother and tells him to kill the kids of Elm Street because they are being bad. So that's exactly what he does. After he kills a kid who is part of a group of teenagers, a police officer accidentally mentions Freddy Krueger's name at the crime scene. Then a couple of kids hear it and they find out about him and get scared. Once Freddy has enough power, he tries to kill a drunk girl who passes out. But just before he kills her, Jason kills her in the real world. Freddy gets pissed off, and from there on out, Freddy ends up trying to get revenge on Jason. The film shows that when Freddy and Jason are in the dream world, Freddy is stronger because that's his home environment, and Jason is stronger in the real world for that exact same reason. There are only 2 fights in the whole movie, one in the dream world and one in the real world. I think it would have been better if there were multiple fights throughout the movie. The other characters are surprisingly likeable and you grow attached to them all the way until they blow up Freddy and Jason while they're fighting. Luckily they both survive this, but they stop fighting. Freddy goes to kill the 2 remaining teenagers and Jason jumps out and stabs Freddy with his own glove and then falls back into the lake. Freddy was holding Jason's machete, which he then dropped. One of the teenagers grabs it and then chops off Freddy's head. And right at the end of the film we see Jason emerge holding Freddy's decapitated head, and then Freddy winks at the camera. The ending leaves the film open to discussion. A lot of people say that Freddy wins, and a lot of people say Jason wins. Some people even say that it was a tie. I have to say Jason wins, and it's hard for me to say that because they beat each other up quite brutally. The one thing I didn't like about the film was the colour patterns. When we're in the real world, it's normal colours, except for when Freddy and Jason are fighting, because then it becomes extremely blue. So blue that Freddy's skin looks blue. In the dream world, everything is red, so it makes Jason's mask red. I wish they could have kept the colour natural, at least turned down the colours a little bit. Anyway, I really did enjoy it, and it is a must-see for fans of either of the films. I wish there was more versus crossover movies. The only 2 in recent years were this film and those god-awful Alien vs Predator movies. Now the 2010 remake. Now sometimes with a remake, they can be surprisingly good, like the remake of Dawn of the Dead. But other times they can be cash-grabbing, atrocious CGI abominations just being made to get old fans and younger generations to flock into the cinemas. The remake for A Nightmare on Elm Street is the latter of the 2. I really do not want to waste a lot of time with this remake. There are parts of the film that are good, but the rest just blows. There are scenes taken from the original, which I understand, but there are random lines from some of the sequels which just don't need to be said.
How's this for a wet dream?
The plot is basically the original, but updated for a newer audience. One thing that really pissed me off was that all the characters' first and last name had been changed except for Nancy, who keeps her first name. This instantly makes me compare her to Heather Langenkamp's Nancy, and when I do, the original always has to win. Jackie Earle Haley was a good choice for Freddy, but he sounds too much like Christian Bale's Batman.
Answer me! No. Do you think you can bring the dead back to life?
Also, his makeup looks like melted cheese. The scene where you see Freddy's original death, you actually see him run out on fire. We then see all his face burn up, and that's how it should look. That looks like the Freddy Krueger we all know and love from the original films. In this film, instead of saying that Freddy was a child killer and implying that he molested them as well, it just flat out says that he's a child molester. I have to say, the scenes showing off Freddy's backstory until his death was actually really good. The writers of the remake wanted to make Freddy scarier than he was in the original film. How do you do that? Well, that's easy. Just put in tons of what's in every modern horror film. Loads of jump scares. In the original, when there was a jump scare, it made sense because no one was expecting it, and we thought it was all over. But in this one, wherever they are in a dream, there is a jump scare. They could have had suspenseful moments where Freddy comes out slowly, but no, he jumps out screaming at them. This film is just not good at all. I really wanted to like it due to the fact that I loved the original series, but it was just a mess start to end. They are currently in the midst of making a sequel. I hope this time they get someone who likes and knows a lot about the original series and does not fuck it up. Also, don't let Michael Bay produce this, because he always messes up everything that has huge amount of fans. Well, except for a couple of his company's remakes. But definitely avoid this one. Okay, now that the series is finally over, it's time for me to rank the films in top 9 order. Number 9, the 2010 remake. Number 8, Freddy's Revenge. Number 7, Dream Child. 6, Freddy's Dead. 5, Dream Master. 4, Freddy vs Jason. 3, Dream Warriors. 2, New Nightmare. And the first one is, of course, A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original film. So now that's over, let's move on to the next series. One that conveniently ties into the holiday we are currently preparing to celebrate. I present you the Halloween series.